Our family history is something I think I've known all my life. I can always remember hearing family members, the older ones. My great-grandfather, in the African tradition, maintained oral history.
Miss Davis is a fascinating story. The facts that she basically broke every paradigm that you can think of in the deep south of the early 20th century is a really remarkable story.
Sallie Ellis Davis was born in Baldwin County in 1877. She was the child of an African-American woman and a native Irish man.
Joshua Ellis was an unusual man of his time. His offsprings were claimed, and he went through every hoop he could to make sure that they owned his property, inherited it, and if he thought that that was going to be a problem, he spelled out everything.
After completing studies at the Eddy School in Milledgeville, Sallie Davis attended Atlanta University, graduating with a normal school degree in 1899. She began teaching at the Eddy School before graduating, and her tenure included teaching and serving as principal, working at the school for a half-century.
When it came time for me to finish high school, there was no consideration as to whether I would go to college or not.
In its earliest years, Georgia College had been founded in 1889. You're 1 block away from the governor's mansion, which was the home of the university presidents when she came to Milledgeville. You're 2 blocks away from Georgia College, which at that time period was Georgia Normal and Industrial College, so it's a teacher school.
When she came back to this area, she was the only teacher, black or white, with college credentials. She was a brilliant woman.
She was, quite honestly, the best educated educator, white or black, involved in Baldwin County at this time period from about 1900 to 1950. And for a woman that was of mixed race heritage to rise to the rank of principal, to have positions of power, so you have mixed race women in the Deep South having these areas of responsibility, it's a truly remarkable story.
Her motto was "Hitch your wagon to a star," I believe, and she was very encouraging.
And though her students feared her, they always remembered that she had a motto that you should reach for the stars. And if nothing else, she inspired them. And we use this facility today to talk about life in a segregated classroom and the lessons that she would teach there.
While many of her students described her as harsh and stern, they also praised her as a caring teacher who demanded greatness only because she wanted her students to achieve it.
She wasn't going to turn anyone away that wanted education. And they said she was such a disciplinarian that some of these big bustling guys from these farms and all, they said she could handle them. Said nobody ever gave her trouble.
Mrs. Davis was said to dress in head to toe in complete black when she was dealing with her students. And the running joke in the community was she rode her broomstick to and from school every day.
Sallie Davis was known to make her home available for students from rural areas to board so they could further their education and achieve their goals. She often provided meals and clothing to children whose families were having hard times. While she could have chosen to live her life of privilege, Sallie Davis made the decision to help others realize their potential despite the odds in a segregated South.
This was still very much a rural area, and people lived out on farms. It's difficult for children to go past what was in the community, which were church schools. But Aunt Sallie opened her home to children that wanted to go to school. My mother says she remembers that there would be beds in that hallway there. The kids would sleep in order to get an education.
The legacy of Mrs. Davis in the community is still palpable. Shortly after her death in the mid-20th century, a local elementary school was actually named in her honor here in Baldwin County, Sallie Ellis Davis Elementary, that continued to operate until the very late 1990s.
In 1990, the Sallie Ellis Davis Foundation was formed by a group of Baldwin County citizens, several of whom were former students of Davis. Their mission is to create an African-American heritage museum in her former home to promote African-American history.
This project, Georgia College and State University has been the owner of this house since 1989, and working in partnership with the Sallie Ellis Davis Foundation. Beginning in the mid to late 2000s, a plan was developed to refurbish this house to make it an educational resource for the university and local community. Working with the Sallie Davis Foundation, the Georgia College and State University Foundation raised $400,000, and the proceeds of this was utilized to refurbish the center. We're very proud of the fact that not a dollar of state money went into this. This was all privately raised funds, and a lot of the work was done through in-kind support of the community and also local construction and architectural firms. So we had a lot of support. It really was a village process to do this.
You talk back to Sallie and what she pushed. I think she made sure, just from what my family is that she made sure that they were comfortable in knowing who they were. I'm sure she made that history and that hope of things to come. I'm sure she imparted that to her students. That's part of her legacy.